Baby. Hello, hello, hello. We are here on the couch, and today what we want to do, or what we've been trying to promote, is being present and accounted for. Present and accounted for as African American, same gender loving adults over 50, if you will. And that's where we are. We are talking about what the challenges are and the successes. And indeed, the focus of the goal is to stand as role models, to stand as all things are possible, even though you have been condemned, as some of us may have been, to a life as a gay person. So I have a gentleman here who is really somebody that I've admired since I've been in Boston. And I want to say, my mentor, but, he's somebody I've been observing from afar, but he's been really present and accounted for in terms of how we exist as same-gender loving folk in the community. So I'd like to introduce my guest, Professor Gary Bailey.
Thank you. Thank you.
Gary, why don't we go real quick into you, the journey that you've had as a same-gender loving man?
Wow. I've been out for as long as I can remember. It's been a journey of coming out in the early 70s to my parents as a teenager. Once I got clear about what that meant, and in Cleveland, Ohio, which is where I'm from, and then I'd been raised by a mother and father who said that you could tell us anything, and I had to test that, and went to them and basically said, "This is who I am," and in my mind, it was not as much a test for me, but it was about a test for them. Had they been honest, had they been forthcoming, because I knew me well enough to know this was not going to be the worst test we were ever going to have.
Mm-hmm. The challenges of the community, people that you grew up with, did you have any of those kind of taunts? I'm sure most of us do, but did that affect you in any way?
Well, of course it did. I think, though, in my neighborhood, because we were, my brother and I, who's younger, were considered in some ways, the little princes, if you will, on our street in Cleveland, Ohio. And that wasn't because we were necessarily financially well off, but in the context of the world in which we lived, we had more than others. And it was only when I went away to prep school that I realized that, I realized what real money was and that we weren't in that league. But, having a mother, having a father who were invested in who we were going to be, who were always helping us to think about the future. For as long as I can remember, I was always told that I was going to be a doctor, and my brother was always going to be a lawyer, and that was the track that we were supposed to be on. So you get a certain kind of taunting from other kids because you're not hanging in the same way that they are. So in moving towards the being tracked, if you will, did ever the challenge come up of, I'm a gay person and I might not fit in terms of being a doctor or being, did any fears, phobias there? No. I think that for me, it was who I loved and my sexuality and what I was going to do were very different things. And so when I came to Boston to go to Tufts University, undergraduate, I took a class, an intercession class, and I came here as an out gay young person. Man seems to be very grandiose now when I look back. I went to college when I was 17 years old, so a man that seems a little bigger a word than I was at 17. But I came here to go to Tufts and was on track taking pre-med. And then I realized, I took a course taught by a social worker. Her name is Jane Greenspan. She's still around. I ran into her recently. And in that course, it was a winter intercession class, and I came back early so I could hang out with my friends and I think see a boyfriend that I was seeing at that time. And came back to take that course, and it opened a door for me, and I thought, wow, this is what I want to do. And I never deviated, and I've been a social worker, a professional social worker, for the last 30 plus years.
And so I want to, because as I was trying to make sure your credits looked okay, help me with the credentials.
There's all those letters. I look like an alphabet soup.
Because the alphabet soup, right? But tell us, because people are seeing that.
The HLD and HC in parentheses is I was honored to receive an honorary doctorate from the University of Connecticut.
Congratulations.
Which, as a friend of mine said, an honorary doctorate is much harder to get than one of those where you sit and write a thesis, because those are given out far more rarely, and that's not something I ever thought I would receive for my life's work. And to get that at this point in my life, it was a huge honor. The MSW is a Master's in Social Work. And I'm a proud Terrier, a BU School of Social Work.
A proud?
Terrier, BU School of Social Work graduate. We're called Terriers at BU. We're called Jumbos at Tufts University. Terriers is our mascot at BU, and Huskies is our mascot at UConn. So I cover the animal kingdom. And the ACSW means that I'm a member of the Academy of Certified Social Workers, the ACSW.
And you do nursing and health, right?
I have a dual appointment at Simmons College. My primary appointment is at the School of Social Work, where I coordinate the Dynamics of Racism and Oppression sequence and then teach social policy and then courses in social action. And then a secondary appointment at our School of Nursing and Health Science, where I focus on interprofessional education and particularly work in close collaboration with the Dean of the School of Nursing and Health Science as we try to bridge the divide between the allied health professions.
Allied health professions. Let me go back to the dynamics of racism and the impact that that might have on, and maybe not you, like you say, you were able to move around that or through that, but for younger people coming through that, do you have any thoughts? Have you had any experiences as you've seen young people come through your program?
Yes, and let me say that racism has always been something that I live with every day. It is not something that I have been able to, by any stretch of the imagination, avoid. It's a reality. But I will say that having grown up in Cleveland, Ohio, in a predominantly African American community. I grew up in a city that had one of the first African American mayors in the country, Carl Stokes.
Okay, Carl Stokes.
And so I came to Boston with a different sense of self from having grown up and understanding what Black people could do. We could elect one of our own to lead our city. And transferred that here with me to Boston, which is a little more complex.
But it sounds as though you were able to keep a certain focus or not lose focus but by your sexuality. So even though you had the Black awareness of Black community, it sounded as though you, I don't know, shielded it out, or people did not try to present obstacles or challenges for you?
Well, I think that it was a challenge. Having gone to a prep school, the University School for Boys in Ohio, in Hunting Valley, Ohio, where I was popular, played soccer, football, all of those sorts of things, and was basically out. People knew me and they appreciated me. And growing up in that bubble, and then coming to Tufts, which was also a kind of rarefied air, I came with a sense of people liking me in my totality. My first year at Tufts, however, was a challenging one because I came as someone who was an openly gay individual, and this is in 1973. And the hardest place I had was with other African American students, who, both African American students and white gay students as well. African American students who were rejecting me because I was gay, and gay white students who didn't want to be associated because by being associated with me, I outed them. So my first year at Tufts, literally, I would say I ate practically every meal my first year by myself, to the point that even to this day, I love my downtime and eating meals alone. That's my time. So that I took something that could have been a moment of huge isolation, and I made my life then in Boston. If you won't work with me here, then I'll find people outside of this environment. And then that evolved, and I made some core friends, many of whom are my dear friends. I refer to them as my Tufts family to this day.
Yeah. You know, I like that term you just used, rarefied air, in terms of, you know, having sort of a privilege. I don't want to quite...
No question.
But that privilege, and how does that transfer, or how does that affect in the work that I do? I'm in the bushes, on the streets. And have you seen young men coming through the challenges that they've faced in terms of being gay men and the challenges of being out? Any thoughts, any suggestions about how we might begin to
Yes, that's a great question. I think that one always wants to approach this very cautiously. And having gone to PWIs, or predominantly white institutions, for most of my life, and being one of a few, the institutions that I went to, because of the investment that they had made in me, also had a certain obligation to make sure that I succeeded. I think that there can be some challenges for people, as I'm watching some of my younger mentees who are at historically black colleges and universities, who are proudly out and who want to be at HBCUs and not at PWIs, or predominantly white institutions, particularly